We are live. Hello, Fethi.
Hello, Maria.
Nice to see you here. Hello, dear colleagues. Hello, our registrants.
Hello, everybody who is participating to this webinar.
Yeah, so our today's webinar language will be English, but I guess to start with, we will introduce ourselves. What do you think, Fethi?
That's fine for me.
Okay.
Let me introduce. I'll let you the screen for a moment, and then I will come back to introduce this topic.
Okay.
Fine. So, welcome to everyone. I will introduce first of all this webinar in French. Chers amis, chers participants à ce webinaire, nous reprenons le cycle de webinaire du groupe Formation Continue Optométrie après une hibernation de plus de 8 mois. Cette fin d'après-midi, nous avons le plaisir et l'honneur de recevoir Dr Maria ZNAMENSKA dans une présentation intitulée OCT et Intelligence Artificielle, OCT Artificial Intelligence. Dr ZNAMENSKA est une experte de la rétine. Elle est docteur en médecine, spécialisée en ophtalmologie, avec comme rang professeur agrégé. Elle dirige et exerce l'ophtalmologie dans une clinique d'ophtalmologie à Kiev, dont elle est propriétaire. Elle dirige les programmes éducatifs en rétine médicale, OCT, OCT angiographie, glaucome, myopie et neuro-ophtalmologie. Elle est membre de la Société européenne des spécialistes de la rétine. Elle est experte en imagerie de la rétine, de l'OCT et de l'OCT angiographie, l'OCT depuis 2005 et l'OCTA depuis 2016, ainsi qu'elle occupe un poste de Chief Medical Officer, médecin-chef, si vous voulez, de cette société qui s'appelle Altris Inc., qui est une société basée à Chicago, aux États-Unis, mais de droit ukrainien, où elle dirige le volet médical et la recherche et développement de la société américaine Altris Inc. depuis 2017. Son équipe médicale a lancé des cours de formation s'appelle Altris Education de l'OCT et de l'OCTA en Europe de l'Est et ensuite dans l'espace européen, dans l'espace de la Communauté européenne, au début de l'année 2020. Altris AI, si vous voulez, Altris Artificial Intelligence, est une société medtech qui utilise l'intelligence artificielle pour établir les normes de diagnostic, plus élevées et améliorer les résultats des patients. Altris AI utilise le plus vaste ensemble de données d'images ophthalmiques, plus de 5 millions de scans d'OCT, et un algorithme avancé qui reconnaît 54 pathologies et 49 signes pathologiques sur les scans OCT. Donc, je laisse à Dr Maria ZNAMENSKA l'écran et la possibilité donc, de vous exposer cette thématique. Merci beaucoup.
Okay, thank you very much. I do understand a little bit of French. Thank you for the introduction. And yeah, it was like a question, is this talk available in English? So yes, all the rest of the talk will be in English. And to start with, we would like in English introduce ourselves. Dear Fethi, can you tell a couple of words about yourself?
Well, I am basically an optometrist who graduated in Oran University in Algeria, and then I went to Britain, where I have postgraduate at the University of Manchester. I started lecturing and practicing optometry in 1989, and until now I'm practicing optometry. I have founded and I'm administrating a large group called FCO, Formation Continue Optometry. This group is gathering nearly 4,500 ECPs from more than 100 countries. Its main goal is providing clinical education and information to its members. It has hosted more than 30 webinars on several subjects dealing with eye and visual care. That's all I
Yes. Thank you. And now let me introduce myself. My name is Maria ZNAMENSKA. The surname is a little bit unusual. I'm Ukrainian. I'm a practicing ophthalmologist with more than 18 years of experience, and mainly my experience is in retinal imaging, mostly on OCT and OCT angiography. I have a PhD degree in ophthalmology and also a doctoral degree in healthcare management. And together with our medical team, we are running educational programs in medical retina, OCT angiography, glaucoma, myopia, and neuro-ophthalmology in Eastern Europe since 2020. And my experience in OCT is pretty long, so I've been working with this outstanding diagnostic method since 2005, and I started working with OCT angiography since 2016, and I've been teaching OCT interpretation as a postgraduate education to retina specialists and ophthalmologists since 2013. Starting 2017, I've been leading a medical stream of R&D of the United States based health tech company Altris Inc. And together with our medical team and IT guys, we have launched the Altris Education OCT mobile app. And I know that some of you already are using this app and as fond as me of this app. For eye care specialists. If you don't know about that, you can find it in App Store or Google Play Market. It's free to download. And this mobile app helps eye care specialists to improve their knowledge in OCT. So now let me a little bit introduce Altris, a company where I'm leading a chief medical officer. What is basically Altris? So today we are talking about artificial intelligence and how it can help us, eye care specialists, in OCT interpretation. So Altris AI is a web platform, which means that you don't need to install anything. All you need to use it is an internet connection and any internet browser. So basically it works as a website. With the use of Altris AI, actually Altris AI helps us to differentiate pathological and non-pathological OCT scans, so such kind of screening tool, and also it can detect more than 100 retina pathologies or pathological signs, including rare ones. And basically artificial intelligence is like a pretty popular team right now all over the world, and it's like going to a different parts of our life as well as medicine. And during this webinar I will try to show you like the Altris from the side of how it can help or improve your medical practice. But a little bit of history. So why have we decided to work with AI mostly for OCT? I think you might know that first AI tools in ophthalmology we're working with fundus photos in patients with diabetes mellitus, and we were trying, not we, but researchers were trying to find the right time of detection of diabetic retinopathy in those patients. There are several companies who are performing this stuff, and it works really very, very good. But my experience mostly was in optical coherence tomography, and we predicted that OCT will become such a great diagnostic tool that it will spread all over the world, and we were not mistaken. And we understood that with the aging of the population, with an increase in the number of patients with diabetes, we will have more and more work to do. And as I told you before, CT becomes available as a diagnostic method all over the world, and only in the United States, more than 30 million of OCT examinations per year are performed. So just try to imagine how many images do we get, an eye care specialist, how many images do we get yearly? And we need to do something with huge amount of data. And in many countries, OCT now goes to optometrists' hands, and we have a reasonable question: is it possible to evaluate all this manually, or do we need clinical decision-making support for this, especially for young specialists? And we have, generally in medicine, not only in ophthalmology, we have a huge problem with enormous percentage of medical mistakes. And as you can see on this diagram, the biggest part of medical mistakes are on the level on incorrect diagnosis, unfortunately. And this is basically where AI can help. So what problems do we need? So the evaluation of OCT scans of pathology that we can see, especially on its early stages, really depends on doctors' experience or on eye care professionals' experience. We have very often inability to identify, localize, quantify different pathologies on OCT scans. And also we always want, and it is always a need, to identify new biomarkers for the diseases, which bring us the better understanding of how we can help our patients. And basically, using artificial intelligence in medical data processing is, it could be really very, very helpful. And dear audience, if you don't mind, I would ask you a question to make a kind of a poll. For example, personally, are you ready to try AI for OCT interpretation? Would it be really interesting for you, or maybe you don't believe in it, or maybe you are afraid of it, or you are not sure because you don't have enough experience of it? So please vote while I will be giving the following information. So from my personal experience using artificial intelligence in ophthalmology data processing, we can benefit from automatic segmentation, from quantification of lesions, of recognitions of new biomarkers and patterns. And there is, a very controversial question about predicting, because everyone wants to know what will it be with the patient in for example, 1 or 2 year period of time. But until now, prediction, to say the truth, it works not really very, very well. But a huge amount of researchers are working on this question. So maybe one day we can also predict. So most of you, 91% of our today's audience, responded that they are really very interested in trying AI for OCT. No one answered that he doesn't believe in it, and around 8% is not sure about use or not about using AI for their clinical practice. Well, results are really very, very interesting, and I will show you a little bit later what can be used today. I mean, it's not like a theory, it's what you can use today. And then you will maybe change your mind. I mean, those 8% of responders. So today in ophthalmology, we have such an example of what AI system can provide. So basically, AI can detect more than 100 retinal conditions. I don't say diseases because, well, I will explain it to you a little bit later. Then it usually takes 1, 2, maybe 3 minutes to get the results from AI, because, well, this time depends on the speed of the internet connection, on the amount of scans that are uploaded to Altris system. And you can see the number that really needs explanation. So you can see here more than 80% of combined median segmentation accuracy. So what basically does it mean? Here you can see the list of pathologies that can be detected by AI, by Altris, for example. And among those pathological signs and diagnoses, we can see the commonly observed diseases, for example, such as AMD, and we can see pretty rare diseases like McTell2 or, for example, tapetor-retinal dystrophies, and like many others. So for detection of each point of this list, we have different numbers. Of course, when we see in our clinical practice more patients with AMD, DR, so on, we can detect it more clearly, because like a human doctor, a human being who is working with patients with such pathologies, he sees those pathologies every day in his clinical practice, and it's pretty easy to detect those pathologies just from your experience. Neural networks work well around the same, so they are trying to see, if I can say like this, pathologies, but when it meets the rare pathology, well, the numbers can be a little bit lower. So the average between it will be that number of 80% that I have shown you on the previous slide. But for some diseases, those numbers are even higher than 96, 97%. What do we do to improve? I run a medical, an ophthalmology clinic in Ukraine, and it is working nowadays. Today it is working, and there are retina specialists in there. And we evaluate new versions of Altris that are coming almost every week or every 2 weeks. And when we see the results that we want to improve, we are gathering data, data from the pathologies or from the pathological signs that we need to improve, and then the magic happens. So our retina specialist is not just an ophthalmologist. They're not just ophthalmologists, they're retinal specialists, and the youngest of our retina specialists has an 8 years of experience in medical imaging. They prepare this data annotation, and to launch Altris, we have annotated more than 500,000 scans, and you can see here one of the examples how this annotation is going on. So basically, this is how we teach neural network to detect pathological signs and pathologies. So this work is really very, very interesting. Sometimes on one scan, especially in rare cases, a couple of retina specialists can be involved, and in controversial cases there is always one more expert to make all those gradings. So it is a very precise work. It is a very difficult work, but when we see the results that we are getting, we are really happy that we are doing it. And Altris was certified as a clinical decision support system. In 2019, we've got the CE mark certification for the European Union. We've got the ISO certificate as well. And right now, Altris is in the process of getting the FDA approval. So we are continuously working on improving of it. And in the next part of this presentation, I would like to give you some examples of what you can see today from AI, basically for OCT interpretation. So to begin with, I would like to repeat that you don't need to install anything. It works like a website. All you need is an internet browser like Google Chrome or Safari or whatever you are using, and you need an internet connection. And after that, to start working, you need some data, and the data you are uploading can be in any formats that you can get from your OCT device, from your OCT machine. But what we recommend is using DICOMs. These are files that are file formats that are in every OCT device. Usually DICOM file contains an information of all scan that had been done in the examination. For example, when we are talking about 3D macular protocol, it can consist, depending on the OCT device, from 96 to 512 OCT B scans. And when you download or upload the DICOM, so Altris can analyze all the number of those B scans. Again, very important thing that today Altris works only with scans of the macula. We are not analyzing optic disc yet. Well, let's see what's happening, what will happen in a couple of years, because we have huge plans and ideas. So basically, you can download any macular scan. It can be DICOMs, and but if you somehow do not know how to get a DICOM, you can upload single scans in GPG and PNG and other formats, and it will also be okay. And then the magic starts. So first of all, Altris does a screening, and this tool is very, very helpful for not eye care specialists. For example, we have an experience of using this tool in a diabetic clinic, for example. They do not have in their staff an ophthalmologist, but they have an OCT device, and they do such kind of a screening. So what does this screening show? When a macula scans are uploaded onto the platform, all the scans are differentiated by severity. And AI will classify non-pathological scans as green color, as we used to see on the OCT, moderate severity scans yellow, and severe scans red. So basically normal, abnormal, and something in between. And the whole examination, so it lets you to see the area of interest very, very quickly, and it will further help you to select the right scans for analysis. For detection of severities, for this screening, the accuracy exceeds 98%. So basically, it is very quickly, and it is really very, very precise in detecting and differentiated pathological and not pathological signs. And the model was trained on the mixed data set with regular macula and wide scans that include the optic nerve, and we took data from many OCT devices, different OCT devices, which are here on this slide. You can see it. And then when we have that screening, we can choose any scan of interest for further analysis well, I will show you how it works. So basically here is one scan, and you can see it is yellow framed, so which reminds you that this scan is of a medium severity. But later on, you can wish to have more information. So what information can AI provide to you? So first of all, AI can detect different layers of the retina, and also it can detect different pathological signs and basically show you and teach you how to look, how does a pathology look on the OCT scan. And it is very, very like easy to understand because of these colored graphics, which are really, like, to my opinion, they are very like easy to understand. And this is basically the most interesting tool. The most helpful tool for eye care specialists is segmentation and classification. So basically, to color the OCT scan with different colors depending on the pathology that is on the scan. And here you can see like two different parts, classification and segmentation, and it's always a kind of a mess of what is this. So when you imagine a kitchen and you are hungry, you are going to a fridge and you're opening the fridge and you can see huge amount of ingredients in the fridge. So depending on what ingredients will you take and how you mix them, then you will get a dish. Here is around the same. So we have huge amount of pathological signs that can be detected, and they are colored with different colors, and depending on the mix of those pathological signs, you can get a classification example. So you can see that classification example looks like a diagnosis, like the final diagnosis, and segmentation example look like just the name of the pathological sign. I want to emphasize that Altris does not give you the final diagnosis. And this is what you need to understand, that the final diagnosis is always on the doctor, on the eye care specialist. Why? Because this is just an imaging, and imaging is always let it be a big part, but it is only a part of the diagnosis. To get the final diagnosis, we need a patient's history, visual acuity, sometimes we need intraocular pressure, sometimes we need results of different investigation and all that stuff. And only a human being, only a doctor can combine everything. So here is, Altris is a kind of a recommendational system. And this is what you need to understand. For example, if we are taking like intraretinal cystoid fluid, we can meet it in diabetic retinopathy, we can meet it in age-related macular degeneration, in uveitis, in Irving-Guss syndrome after cataract surgery or whatever. So, I mean, we can see that there is a fluid inside, but we need to get more information from the patient to get the final diagnosis. So this is not a diagnosis, this is a classification and segmentation. But it is really very, very helpful, especially for young eye care specialists, because like you can feel that someone more experienced may be sitting next to you and like give you a hand of help in detecting the pathology. So it might be really very, very helpful. And one more outstanding thing is measurements, and I would like to pay your attention to device agnostic measurements. So here, while I will be talking through the presentation, I would like to set one more poll. And I will answer you a little bit later about what type of OCT device do you use. So basically, we know that there is a difference in measurements in different OCT devices. And the last experiment that we made on one of the opticians exhibition, it was in February this year, so a couple of months ago. We took one of our workers and we have investigated him. His right eye on every OCT device that we could find during this exhibition. And it took us like around maybe a couple of hours, and it was 9 OCT devices. So one patient, like healthy patient, one eye, one day, 9 OCT devices. And the difference in measurements of normal retina sometimes were more than 40-45 microns. And in some cases, for some patients, like difference in 45 microns is like pretty big, and sometimes relying on these numbers, we are taking clinical decisions of how to treat the patient or not to treat or change the treatment. And also there is a problem in for example, big optical chains, when in different opticians practices, they have different OCT devices. And for example, patient went to one optical shop or one optical business, and like in a year he underwent an investigation in another place. And how do we compare? So Altris basically, and AI helps you to get one number which you can rely on. And this is really very helpful. And it can be measurements of the whole retinal thickness. It can be also a measurement of different retinal layers, which is also really good. And also we can measure pathologies, as I will show you in a minute. And here we can see that our users mostly are the users of TopCon, but still you can see it's very I'm really happy to see 15% of users who are not using OCT yet. So maybe you should start, and I think it will be really a very good idea and a very helpful method. So let's get back to the presentation. And for researchers, for doctors, we can make absolutely new thing. We can measure not just the retinal thickness, but we can measure pathologies. For example, we can measure the area of drusen, for example, or area of PD detachment. And we can make follow-ups, just understanding, is this pathology is getting bigger or its area is decreasing, and this is very interesting. And also we can measure the volumes, for example, the volume of intraretinal fluid, or the volume of subretinal fluid, or the volume of any other pathology that you just can imagine. So today, I guess, I have never seen this feature in any OCT devices and in any other programs. And this is an area of interest for practicing ophthalmologists as well as for researchers. So you can measure anything here. And one more, I think it is also a very useful tool, especially for optometrists. It's always a question, should I refer this patient to an ophthalmologist today, in a week, in a month, in a year, or should I just look at this patient by myself? Based on our findings on the OCTB scan, there is a referral urgency score, which might help you to make a decision regarding refer or not to refer the patient to an ophthalmologist. And it is very useful. But again, the final decision is always on the eye care specialist, and this is only a recommendational system. This is what you need to remember all the time. And now let's see a couple of like clinical cases and how it works and how it corresponds to what doctors see. And it will also be a couple of questions for you, just not to let you fall asleep here on the webinar. So we have a case of a 67-year-old woman. You can see the best corrected visual acuity here. And she complains of decreased visual acuity during the last 2 months. And she also has a history of diabetes during the last, how many? 18 years. So here you have a question. What do you think might be like a diagnosis here? When you look on this B scan, please can you answer in the poll? I will just give you a couple of minutes, maybe, or maybe not minutes, but some time. Okay, so almost everyone have responded that this is a diabetic retinopathy with diabetic macular edema, and let's see the results of AI. So here on this scan, AI have detected diffuse edema, floaters, intraretinal hyperreflective foci, hard exudates, intraretinal cystoid fluid. It is all highlighted with different colors over there. And you can see the classification by AI. So AI have decided that here in this patient, we can see a diabetic macular edema and diabetic retinopathy. Later on, this patient was investigated by a human doctor, and the final ophthalmic diagnosis was diabetic retinopathy and diabetic macular edema, which have corresponded like to 100%. And this patient was referred to anti-VEGF treatment. Let's see another example. So here is a case of a 30-year-old male. And you can see the best corrected visual acuity here. And in his anamnesis and his patient data, we found the episode of acute central serous choroidal retinopathy 5 years ago. And he has complaints about the decreased vision during last 3 months. So what would be your diagnosis? Please answer, and I will give you some time. And then we will see the results of diagnosis of AI and ophthalmic diagnosis as well. So results are pretty interesting. You will see it in a minute. I will show you. Okay. So let's see. 73% of our attendees voted for central serous choroidal retinopathy. 26% voted for central serous choroidal retinopathy and macular degeneration. And well, yeah, so let's choose between those diagnoses. So classification of AI was central serous choroidal retinopathy and macular degeneration. And this classification is based on detection of intraretinal hyperreflective foci, posterior hyaloid membrane adhesion, RPE disruption, and subretinal fluid. When the patient underwent the ophthalmic examination, the final diagnosis was chronic central serous choroidal retinopathy. See, the chronic, AI cannot detect that it is chronic, it's just from the patient history, but also it was a secondary macular degeneration. Again, AI has detected macular degeneration, but like secondary, this is like a diagnosis from a human being, from a human doctor, from a retina specialist. So you again can see that they corresponded to like for 100%. So this patient basically was observed by the ophthalmologist. Yeah, you can see how it works. And the last, I think, the last one is a case of a 57-year-old woman. And Yes, I have published it. And you can see the visual acuity here on the slide, and she complains of metamorphopsia and decreased visual acuity on right eye in the last 4 months. And what would be probably the diagnosis from you? Can you answer, please? It is always very, very interesting to see. Yes, you can see, you can put it, you can write it in chat, but also you can vote in polls so that we can see the average results. Okay, so I guess everyone had enough time to vote, and now you can see that most of you have voted for lamellar hole, 12% for pseudo-hole, and 21% for full thickness macular hole. So let's see. AI thinks that that here there is an epiretinal fibrosis and a lamellar macular hole, and this is based on detection basically of lamellar macular hole, retinal wrinkling, pseudocyst, epiretinal fibrosis, and diffuse edema. So after that, the patient was observed by an ophthalmologist, and the final ophthalmic diagnosis was epiretinal membrane, lamellar macular hole, and she was referred to a vitreoretinal specialist for further examinations and treatments and so on. So basically, on those 3 clinical cases, I have shown you the actual today's results of what AI can do for OCT interpretation, and to me it's really very, very promising. Of course, in my opinion, it might work better, and I think it will work better. It's just that we are just in the beginning, but the results that we see are very, very promising. And from my practice, beginners, eye care specialists in the beginning of their clinical practice, they do more mistakes than AI does. Well, today, let's see what happens next. And there is always a question, how will AI algorithms evolve? Well, when we are talking about medicine, about imaging, about ophthalmology. So basically, today, AI is helping to improve medical imaging by denoising, by despeckling, and some of OCT manufacturers are using those algorithms to improve the quality image. Then we are always hoping for new biomarkers detection, and we also see that it could be patients' workflow optimization, like making screenings, like remote examinations and triage, and so on. And of course, it is clinical decision support for diagnosis, and what we always want to know is prediction, but again, I will repeat that with prediction is not that easy today. And well, nowadays, today in the 4th of May 2023, I can see that prediction by AI, like in medical imaging, is something like throwing a coin, it's like 50-50. So let's see, maybe in a couple of years, those results will be really better. And the main message is that AI will never replace the doctor. And maybe this is one of the fears, that AI is taking jobs from people. Here in medicine, people need people, and implementation of AI algorithms can expand the capabilities of every eye care specialist for the early detection, for the early diagnostic of early stages of different pathologies. And as far as you understand, when we detect it on the very early stages, we can save huge amount of visual acuity to a patient. AI screening programs will bring more patients with earlier symptomatic stages, and this is basically what is going on today during our screenings. And of course, prescribing the correct treatment for a specific patient at the right time is a common goal of all doctors, of all patients, and like the whole healthcare system. So basically, this is a kind of a win-win situation for everyone. Everyone wins from it. So in my opinion, if we believe it or not, if we want it or not, new technologies are coming like in all parts of our life, including medicine. And we need not to be afraid of them. We need to know how to use them to improve our clinical practice and to give more health, more vision to our patients. So basically, this is my main message. And well, everyone can try Altris for free, and there is always 5 days of free trials, and you can use all files formats. But again, we recommend to use DICOMs because only for DICOMs measurements are available. Well, you must understand that if we use a linear scan, like 2-dimensional scan, we cannot calculate, for example, volumes. And when we have DICOMs, we can then have a 3D imaging, and then we can do more with it. So basically, eye care professionals from many countries have already joined the platform. So can you do? You cannot use this platform from the mobile phone, from mobile device. You need a laptop for it, but you are very welcome. And right now, I will start an offer, so it can be opened in the next to the webinar tabs, so you can just try to register, and well, maybe tomorrow, while you will have your working day, you can try to analyze a couple of images with AI for your clinical practice. And I guess that's it, and I'm very grateful first of all, Fethi, to you for inviting me to present this information, and for a great company, and as well as to all our attendees for their time, for their attention. I hope that this webinar was interesting for you.
Well, thank you indeed, Maria, for the wonderful talk, and there's very didactic slides. I personally learned a lot from this talk, and hopefully I'll be using your platform, and I would very pleased to carry on. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thank you, and have a good evening, everyone. And well, maybe once more we will see you on our webinars. Fethi, thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good evening.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.